Okay, so now I want to dive into 3 tips that I have for building really meaningful digital connections. And I think that these 3 tips combined, they work for not just digital connections. These can work for probably any kind of relationships, at least a couple of them. We'll go into each one now. Tip number 1 of 3. I always try to ask, I recommend asking yourself this question: how can I provide more value than I'm actually receiving when I'm interacting with somebody digitally? This is like the most important one. I'm going to repeat this for emphasis. How can you provide more value than you are receiving when you're interacting with somebody? If you go into relationships thinking this way, it helps so much, because what happens is, like, I kind of think that karma is a real and measurable phenomenon, because what happens is when I go out of my way to try to provide more value than I'm receiving virtually, it kind of comes back around. Usually, almost all the time, it comes back. And usually when you go out of your way to go that extra mile to help somebody, somehow that happens to get reflected back into your own life. And if you do it at a lot, at scale, and you keep doing that with everybody, and you bring up and you encourage people to do that to others, it just kind of fosters, in my opinion, a really healthy community of people who want to bring each other up and grow, versus people who want to extract and tear people down and stifle. So here's a little visual example. So I love doing augmented reality filters. I've been doing them for like a lot of clients. I do them for personal projects because it combines like all that modeling, 3D modeling, texturing, programming, all the kind of stuff I love doing. But I wanted to provide more value than just having like, cool, here's a pretty filter. So what I've done is I've tried to turn a lot of my content into educational content. These are the kind of things that I wish I was able to have access to when I was getting started into the 3D worlds, the AR worlds, the VR worlds. I wish I would have known what are these tools that people are using, and where, like, what's the pipeline? How do you start? How do you end? And so with that kind of mindset and that kind of framework, here's an example. So it says 6 steps to make this AR filter. Step 1, sculpt with ZBrush Core 2021. Step 2, paint it with Substance by Adobe. Step 3, we're going to rig it with Maxon Cinema 4D. Step 4, we're going to animate. Step 5, we're going to do AR face tracking with a program called Spark AR. And then I thank them for learning. So that was like about 30 seconds. And now you kind of would know what is like a pretty feasible, powerful AR pipeline to making a filter. I really use that order quite a lot. And so, I was once kind of told years ago when I was starting to get into these industries that it was a bad idea to share all my secrets or to share my workflow or to share my techniques. I was told that I would lose work, I would lose clients, and I would have no work coming in if I did that. And I'm so happy that I ignored that information because what I have found is that by sharing more and more and helping people grow, it's actually yielded more work than I could have ever imagined. It's yielded more relationships, more collaborations, more community, more opportunity. And that was just, I don't know why that was, why people were teaching me or trying to program me to think otherwise. It worked in the reverse, because I found if you don't share your expertise and you're trying to do some kind of specialist kind of work, no one's going to know that you can do what you can do. And if you're too scared that someone's going to steal your work, well, then no one's going to know about your work. Yet, that risk of stuff getting stolen is it's inevitable. It might happen. But if you don't share your work at all, then you don't get to grow. And so anywho, all that to say, tip number 1 of 3 is ask yourself how you can provide more value than you're receiving.